it's a painful thing to watch the country degenerate into fractious poverty as a consequence of nothing other than immaturity, which is like the hallmark of Trudeau. He's so immature. He looks like a 14-year-old. It's no wonder he was like, I learned this when I was a therapist. I learned to look at people to see how old they were psychologically. Like I could watch my clients while they were telling me stories, especially stories about their past. They would take on the facial expressions of children sometimes when they were talking about past experiences, especially traumatic experiences. And I learned how to see how old people were. And I swear, this is not a personal slur. Trudeau is somewhere between 13 and 15. And that's not good when you're 50. He was at a Taylor Swift concert the other day, non-ironically handing out friendship bracelets while Montreal burned. It's not acceptable. And so he was the pretty boy of the progressive movement. And he's going to get his comeuppance, but I'm afraid as a wounded narcissist that he's going to do plenty of damage. The country doesn't deserve a leader as spectacular as he is, and he's certainly going to show that to everyone in this last year of his rule, because he'll take his revenge. He will take his revenge. He's going to do that with Bill C-63, which is the most totalitarian bill I've ever seen.
You think they'll actually pass that?
It's through first reading. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I think they'll pass it.
That's
I think they'll pass
crazy. Okay, thank goodness you moved.
Yeah, well, it's a bill that purports to protect children from online harm. And that's the beginning of the bill and the end of the bill. Mm. And the middle is literally the creation of a new extrajudicial system that isn't bound by the rules of legal investigation or guilt, which has an unlimited range of expansion and all the powers of a court. And more than any court in Canada has ever had, as far as I can see.
And can you tell people just briefly what the bill is about?
Well, here's one of the elements of the bill. So you'll be able to take the complaining types, so the informants.
80% of the population.
No, it's not that high. It's about 30%, I would say.
That's still scary.
Yeah, I know. It's plenty. You'll be able to take someone in front of a provincial magistrate because you're afraid that sometime in the next year they might commit a hate crime, which is the sort of thing that people are being pursued for in the UK now, although they call them non-crime hate incidents. They're not actually crimes there, although they're recorded and they come up if you do an employment search for someone. And there's thousands of people being persecuted for non-crime hate incidents, including journalists. Non-crime hate incidents.
So Orwellian.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Anyways, if I'm afraid that you might commit a hate crime, on the basis of my fear, if the magistrate agrees that my fear is warranted, and God only knows how that is to be adjudicated, it would certainly be warranted, let's say, in my situation, because I'm a repeat offender, as the college has so, morally pointed out. I'm at high risk to reoffend with my appalling opinions, like, for example, the opinion that it's a crime against humanity to slice the breasts off minor girls who are confused about their life because they've had their brains addled by their appalling teachers and were not protected by their cowardly psychologists and their criminal butchers, the criminal butchers who are masquerading as surgeons. So let's see if we can generate another complaint or two for the college.
Oh, I can't believe it's so funny.
Well, let me finish.
Go ahead.
Let me finish the crime. So, so I can be afraid that someone like me might utter some opinion that's hateful against some protected group. Gender expression, by the way, is protected in Canada. Gender expression literally is fashion. Literally. It's literally fashion. It's, how you present yourself. It says your hair, your nails, your clothing, that's how you express yourself as a woman when you're a man. Anyways, if you're afraid that someone might commit a hate crime and the judge agrees, then he can Fit that person with an electronic surveillance bracelet and basically keep him in his house for a year.
No.
Yes, absolutely. 100. Read it yourself. Bill C-63. It's in the middle. That's more than that.
What?
That stop any communication on social media, monitor all the social interactions in real life, and force the person to submit their body fluids on a regular basis for analysis for reasons that just are not specified in the bill. I suspect they got it from domestic abuse cases where, if you are a domestic abuser, if you're violent and you drink alcohol, you're much more likely to be violent.
Yeah.
I mean, alcohol makes people violent, especially if they're already somewhat violent. So I imagine they just lifted it from there. Hate crime,
Oh my
domestic
gosh.
violence. Yeah, it's beyond comprehension. It's beyond comprehension. I still can't believe that's what that bill says, but I've stated it publicly several times and no one's come out and said, Peterson doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. And I think the reason for that is that I actually read the bill and I know what's in it and I know where it's headed, just like I read Bill C-16 and told the Senate in 2016 that if they went forward with their idiot legislation, that they would cause an epidemic of gender dysphoria among young women. Right. I got that right. That's for sure. And it wasn't like that was my hypothesis. I thought, I know how psychological epidemics start because I knew the literature and I know who's susceptible to them and how you create them. Just by having that idiot legislation that Justin and his moralizers thought was freeing for the LGBTQ plus two-spirited community, from whom I would say the rest of us have heard just about enough. So.
Wow. Well, I hope that bill doesn't pass. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think it will, though.
Any conservative who has anything controversial, which has switched. We were talking the other day
any
about
socially conservative viewpoint would be a hate crime, yeah.
Oh my
Well, and the
gosh.
thing is that the bureaucracy is set up to serve informants, essentially. It'll just produce a class of informants. They're incentivized by the legislation. It'll just produce a class of informants who will do nothing but weaponize a new bureaucracy that has the power to expand indefinitely without the constraints of legal precedent, which it says in the bill. Yeah, it's beyond belief. And that's all presented in the package of protecting children from online harm. Canada could just move to shut down the porn sites if it actually cared about online harm to children. You can go after Pornhub, for example, which is situated in Canada, by the way. And so if there was an iota of seriousness behind this, which there isn't, because there isn't an iota of seriousness in Trudeau and his cabinet, there's many other things that could be done to protect children that would actually work without severely and permanently compromising civil liberties. But Canadians, mostly they're still asleep.